Maybe you're wondering, should kids get an allowance?
I'm Vicki Jenkins.
And I'm Dr. Paul Jenkins. Together we have over 30 years of clinical experience working with families and children.
Allowance can be either your best friend or a quick road to entitlement.
That is for sure. And I've worked with a lot of families, I know you have as well, where this becomes a question. So let's talk about some of the considerations that will help you to make that decision very well.
Probably the first thing you want to ask yourself is why? Why are you considering an allowance? What is your reason for it?
Deserves a little bit of thought.
Yeah, I think you really have to ask yourself the hard questions about this.
You might be doing this because of social pressure. Maybe that social pressure is coming from your kids.
Yeah, or even some neighbors or friends or parents.
It might be the way everybody else is doing it, or there might be a clear reason that you're doing this in order to teach responsibility, for example, to learn some real-world principles about how this works.
I think it's really important to get clear about your why before you bring it up with your children.
If it's one of those previous reasons, like social pressure or your kids feeling entitled to it, then I'd say let's put the brakes on this for a while. Let's rethink it. But if we really are clear about using this as a tool in parenting to help our kids learn responsibility, it can be a really powerful one. I think one of the most important considerations to start out with, once we get clear about our why, is to distinguish really clearly between needs and wants.
Well, and I think we distinguish that and our kids do, but I think the allowance itself can help us teach how to distinguish between needs and wants. I just think there's a lot of adults who are still trying to figure out how to tell the difference between needs and wants. And this might help you as an adult see it, but also to teach your children it.
You know, we can go extreme here, and that might actually be helpful. So let's talk about 5 needs. All right, these are the things that your kids actually need. I call them the 5 freebies.
Yeah, and why do you say freebies?
They're freebies because your kids don't have to earn these or deserve them. They're free.
Yep, they're just part of parenting.
As a parent, you have a moral responsibility to provide these 5 things to your minor children. Are you ready?
Yep.
First, love.
Yep.
Because what's your job as a parent?
To love them no matter what and even if.
Right. That is free. They don't have to earn it. Second, air.
Obviously.
Now, I know you don't provide air to your kids, but you have no business depriving them of it. So it's a freebie, right? What's the next one, Vicki?
It is water.
Water, you can go a little longer without water than you can without
really,
it.
obviously, we're just talking about the basic human needs of a child. Right?
Well, that's why we wanted to go extreme here so that you can really discern between needs and wants. And water is clearly
a need.
A need. So is the next one, food. But notice that doesn't necessarily mean preferred food or the kind of food that's really expensive or that all my friends are eating.
But it is whatever your 2-year-old will eat.
Well, there's that too. And after food comes
shelter.
Yes.
Yeah. They need to have a safe place to be, to sleep, and to just have some space.
While we're playing the extreme game, shelter does not necessarily mean a private bedroom.
Correct.
But it does mean protect them from the elements. And in most societies, shelter includes appropriate clothing. You'll notice I didn't say stylish or fashionable clothing. Appropriate clothing.
So those are our needs. I think some of the value in doing this kind of an exercise is to even make yourself more aware of what your own wants and needs are. And you can change some of your language when you're talking with a kid. Because a lot of the times we're like, oh, I need to get some new shoes or something like that. We say a lot of that. And I think it's a time to actually just kind of police the way that you say things and present it in a way that shows our children that they have choices between wants and needs and they have an understanding of that.
I think that's really powerful, and the acknowledgement. It's not bad to want something.
No, I think it's really important. And I think that helps with our gratitude in realizing that you always have your needs met and most of your wants. Really, that's the way it kind of goes.
That is usually the case. So as we make that distinction, it puts us in a position where we can have a whole different conversation with our kids. They might approach us, for example, saying that they need a phone.
Right.
Actually, that's not true. They don't need a phone. Now, it is true that many teenagers especially have a cellular communication device, right? And it's not even really a phone. Have you noticed? It's more of a handheld computer.
Right.
And they don't need it, and we know this because generations of teenagers before them have done perfectly fine without them. Right. They're not going to want to hear that, by the way. But distinguish between the wants and the needs, and then that's going to change the conversation we have. I'll bet you're thinking of someone who could really benefit from watching this video. Would you take a moment to share? There's some very handy buttons right down there that allow you to do just that. And while you're there, hit the subscribe button and click on the notification bell so that you stay in the loop as a conscious, positive parent.
Okay, remember there are 5 freebies that we provide as a parent that are non-negotiable, but everything else is negotiable, right? And so we want to talk about budgeting for everything else and how we're going to go about that.
By the way, the only way this works is if you as a parent are willing to allow your kids to have or not have what they want.
And to be uncomfortable. I really am finding that that's one of the hardest parts of being a parent is allowing your child to be in discomfort, and even yourself.
Well, because that causes discomfort for you as a parent. And sometimes it gets really colorful. I was working with a family not too long ago where a teenage daughter was absolutely terrorizing her parents when she didn't get what she wanted.
Right.
So the parents had been conditioned to just give in to her tantrums, her demands, her manipulations, because they didn't want to be terrorized afterwards. So this is not a small thing that we're asking you to consider, that you be okay with your child not having what they want. One of the things that we teach consistently in our parent coaching programs is detachment from the outcome. And this is exactly what we're talking about right now. Somebody has to be attached to the outcome. And if it's you, it's not your child.
And that sounds so strange, but really, you're going to present the situation, you're going to talk about it, and then you're going to be okay if they choose to go for it, use their money that way or not, and what kind of an attitude they're going to approach it with. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to permit really poor, disrespectful attitude. It's not like you're going to just say, hey, give it to me, but you are going to detach from the outcome. And it takes a lot of practice to do that.
It does take some practice, and it's well worth it. So let's take an example of a child who wants that new pair of shoes. Now you'll notice I didn't say they needed it.
They want it.
Because they got a pair of shoes, don't they? You've made sure of that as a parent. They've got a pair of shoes, but they want the new pair, the brand pair, right? And it's going to cost something a little north of whatever their allowance is. Why is that a good thing?
I think one of the biggest things, especially in this, the world of immediate gratification, you get to learn delayed gratification. And I think that's really important. We're not teaching that as often in our lifestyles now.
This is coming right back to where we started, Vicki, with the why. Right? When you get clear about your why you want your kids to have an allowance is so that they can learn responsibility and other real world virtues that are going to move them forward with a successful life. You mentioned delay of gratification. This is a great time to learn that because here's their allowance, right? And it's a little less than they need for that thing that they want. And they're wanting other things too. So not only do they want the shoes, but they want to go out to the cafe with their friends and they want to go to the movies on Friday night. And so they're going to have to learn a little concept called budgeting.
You know, and I think one of the real advantages to this is there are all kinds of areas of our lives that we have to learn budgeting. There's budgeting in financially, but there's budgeting in emotional resources, time, etc. So this gives you a chance to talk about that. And another thing I was thinking about is that you may not want your child to have too much money on their hand, right? And so I think that there are ways that you can play with this. This doesn't mean that they have to buy everything else that they want, but maybe contribute a portion. That's something that you get to work with your child on.
Right, and that gets right back to the budgeting idea, how they're going to budget their energy. Are they going to budget it to beat up mom or dad for not giving them what they want, or to collaborate and to come up with some things that they can do together? So you can see this can become a really powerful tool as long as you're detached from the outcomes. We're distinguishing between those wants and needs, and we're allowing our children to not have what they want. We hope that you've found this helpful, at least to get the juices flowing and to start thinking about what you could do as a parent. There is a model that every parent needs to understand as they work with their kids. If you'd like a copy of this, we'll put it right in your inbox, drpauljenkins.com/stages, and you're going to be able to use this as you work out all of those other arrangements, including the allowance.